precise. Okay.
I'm going to go back to my theme of planning. Part of it comes about, as mentioned, in litigation. You know, you don't enter litigation without a plan. You want to know how much your counsel is going to charge you approximately. Now, you can't hold him to the number, but you can at least find out what his plan is, how he's going to approach this litigation. That in itself starts saving you money. It forces him to think through his strategy. It also means that you can look at it and say, is it worth settling because it'll cost me more to fight? Now, people will say, but if we settle, then other people will come after us. And the answer is yes, but you look at each case on its own merits. Again, it's a planning issue, like so many things. We haven't planned on how to pay our teachers the union contract that we worked out with them. We just said, well, someday, or like I should say a long-term incumbent said, someday I hope we'll be able to live up to the contract. Well, this is a business, you know. You don't make contracts if you can't live up to them. And if you can't, and if you're having problems with the contract, you need to get the other party involved. So it becomes his problem as well as yours. You can't force him to take what you give him. That's where planning comes in. They're not looking down the road. They're only hoping down the road that taxes will go up, property values will go up, they'll have more money. Then they can throw it at the problems. So they run from crisis to crisis instead of planning their path. If you don't know where you're going, you're likely to end up somewhere else.
I couldn't agree more with Howard. My first meeting on the Audit and Finance Committee, coming up on 3 years ago now, I raised the whole issue of financial planning. Why doesn't the district do financial planning? And I think Howard touched on it there at the end. You know, when the money's coming in, the attitude's kind of, well, we don't have to plan. You know, we got plenty of money, and if we make some mistakes, what difference does it make, you know, kind of thing. Well, when the money quit coming in, we paid a horrible price for our failure to plan. And I have been arguing again for the last 3 years the need for a 1, 3, and 5 year plan, updated regularly. And the district bought me. Some of you may recall the bitter exchange I had with the CFO when he refused to do projections. But you can't plan without projections. It's the heart of planning. And that's something that has to change in the district. But I couldn't agree more. We've got to plan for the future. If we don't, the future will control us.
I was at that meeting when Larry had that disagreement with the CFO. And I felt for Larry and I felt for Michael Kinnear because nobody knew if the .5 mil referendum was going to pass. Nobody knew if they were going to have a $6 million or so shortfall or a $14.5 million or so shortfall. At that meeting, nobody knew. I don't know how you plan in the face of something like that. It's like this school district indeed does live hand to mouth. And perhaps it can be corrected, or perhaps it's just part of what I said, it's just broken. And you're not going to fix it. I want to say one thing that a lot of people probably don't know. Larry Murray here told John Burke and Superintendent Burke that he could not find enough money in the budget to fund the collective bargaining agreement that had been negotiated, and it was before the school board to ratify it, which would make it a legal agreement. The reason Larry did not think there was enough money there was because he had gone down and talked to the county tax collector. So how much revenue does it look like the schools are going to get in taxes this year? And they told him. And he compared that to the revenue figure the school board was using, which was a good bit higher than what the county collector said was going to happen. And the reason it was a good bit higher was because the school board and Burke and Jesus Jarrah were like no numbers that were given to them by Tallahassee for what the county's tax revenues would be. Now, how Tallahassee knew what the county tax revenues were going to be, I don't have any idea. The tax collector knew. So they agreed to this contract with the union that they could not afford because they used the wrong revenue numbers. After being told they had the wrong revenue numbers. Talk about Larry Murray. And no wonder Larry got kicked off the AFC. He was nagging them to death. And just more indication of just how screwed up it is, folks.
Thank you. There's definitely a need, and there is a lack of planning in the Monroe County School District. It's evident to everybody who watches it. It's evident if you pick up the newspapers every day. There once was a document that was used, and I think it's still in existence. It's called the Monroe County School District Strategic Plan, where it outlines your path that you're going to take for the next 3 to 5 years. Built into that strategic plan are goals and objectives that you want to meet. These could be financial plans, these could be academic plans. They're outlined, and they are also given milestones when you're going to measure them and who is responsible for measuring these components of your strategic plan. I don't know the current status of our strategic plan right now. I know there was an active committee several months ago that was working on a final revision of the Monroe County District Strategic Plan. It's necessary. Without it, your ship is rudderless. You're going in no given direction. I think part of that problem comes about because I think our last 2 superintendents were temporary superintendents. I think they had their resumes out after a month in Monroe County. I don't think they were invested in the community and the school district. There's also a lack of planning, I think, in the academic program, as witnessed by the IB, the International Baccalaureate program that was proposed for the Monroe County School District, and there was never any follow-through. I know that teachers were trained, and the cost of the training probably exceeded $20,000. It could have even been more. I've yet to hear a word on the fate of it, other than I know for certain it's probably gone down the tubes. It's going to take a tremendous effort to right this ship, as we know, as the Monroe County School System. It's going to take inspirational leadership to get the planning right. It's going to take cooperation with all the teachers, all the employees, and the district staff, the board members. It has to be a community effort. I can remember several months back when the superintendent proposed town hall meetings. I thought that was a very good idea. I went to most of them. Although they were contentious, and I don't think the superintendent and his staff wanted to hear the input, they just felt it was necessary to go out to the community. I would propose having them at least once a semester in every neighborhood school, where you could come out, the superintendent attends, mandatory attendance by the school board, and you field whatever questions the community wants to give you. I think it would open the communications, it would be a step towards honest government.
Planning. Well, there's obviously a problem with planning in the school district at the school board level regarding our finances. I'm glad that I think everybody here is in agreement with me that this is a $80 million a year business running the school district. And if you're going to run a business like that, you need planning at all levels, all areas of finance. We don't have financial projections. We don't have financial forecasts. We don't have proper management of money in hand. We don't have proper management of assets. Sloan said that the Glenn Archer deal is done. It's not done. In fact, the entire transaction was not legal in the first place because the statute requires that in order for a school district to dispose of, in this case, give away a building, it has to have been declared surplus in the educational plan survey. That's no longer intended to be used for educational purposes. And the last educational plan survey did not show that. It said that they were using it for various educational purposes. So they haven't done it legally. If they wanted to do it legally, yes, they're going to have to go back and change the educational plan survey. But that gives us time to unwind this mess because it's not a done deal. The way they passed it was not legal, and it can be undone. We can get that $6 million back for use by the school district. The other area of financial mismanagement that I wanted to address tonight, and a lack of planning, is the bond portfolio. The school district carries a face value of about $90 million in bonded indebtedness. Okay? Andy Griffiths said, well, the mortgage is going to be paid off in the year 2015. Well, that's not quite correct. He's making reference to the bonded indebtedness as the mortgage, because that's where most of the money went to, is to build the schools. Okay, yes, and the schools are great schools. There's no doubt about that. Construction-wise, they're great. But he's simply not being honest about that. Only 60% of that bonded indebtedness is going to be paid off by that 2015. There's a difference between 60% and 100%. In fourth grade, we called it 40%. Mr. Griffith seems to forget about that. There's another area about that bond portfolio that troubles me. I looked at the bond portfolio and saw what the face value of the bonded indebtedness was, saw what the interest rates that we're paying on those municipal bonds, which incidentally is about 5%. And I thought, well, I bet our hedge portfolio was looking really good now, because interest rates, as you know, have fallen down to almost zero. You get nothing at the bank now. And if you're going to borrow money from a municipality, like a school board, for example, the going rate right now is about 0.5%. We're paying 5%. We're paying a lot more interest than what the going rate is. Everybody says, well, we issued those bonds a long time ago. Interest rates dropped, but who knew the future? Nobody knows the future. What you do when you maintain a bond portfolio, when I say you, I mean any company on Wall Street that is an $80 million a year business that carries a large bond portfolio, they hedge their bond portfolio constantly. What I'm talking about, Dr. Larry says, oh, Mark, don't talk about the hedging with derivatives because it's too complicated. The school board members don't understand it. They won't understand what you're saying, and it'll just go right over their heads. Well, they should understand it. Everybody who sits on a board of an $80 million corporation on Wall Street understands what hedging their bond portfolio means. What it means is you take offsetting positions to protect yourself against changes in interest. And it's done through the derivatives market. And a school district would be what's considered a hedger. Okay, it's a financial insurance against changes in interest rates. And the derivatives market is there for anybody who wants to hedge to do it. And had they done that, we would be able to refinance those existing bonds at the current rate of 0.5% and not have to pay a huge premium for the bonds that we're going to buy back, the ones that are earning 5%. Right now we can't buy them back because their value has gone way up because they've got us locked in at 5%. Had we maintained a hedge account against those bonds, we would be in a position now to buy back all those bonds and issue new bonds at 0.5%. Okay, it's a little complicated. I understand. It's a little bit complex financially, but the school district board should be able to understand it, and they should be doing it. They should have been doing it all along, because had they done it all along, we would have saved millions of dollars in interest. Now we're paying 5%. We should be paying 0.5%. The fault of that, and the fault of all that extra interest that's being wasted, is the lack of management and planning by the school board.
Planning. Every man in this room knows that nobody can plan better than a woman. You men know that we keep you in line. And the reason for that is we have to prepare for every contingency. We run our homes, we run our businesses, we run our children's lives, our husbands' lives. We run every aspect of the word planning. And we have to. And we do it with a smile, and we do it well. I hate to say that, but it is true. We have 5 men on that board. They don't have a clue how to plan. I keep hearing the same thing about that $1 million windfall. I'm not even sure that's going to happen. And I don't see how anyone else can say that it will. But I know that before that happens in 2016, we need to get there first. We still have to get through 12, 13, 14, etc. And if in fact our ship comes in and we have that money, we should plan for what's to come. I had the pleasure of visiting Stanley Switlick with Dr. Salinero, and she took me on a tour. That was eye-opening. That school needs some money. It needs repairs, it needs things, a lot of things. 60 school, same thing. All those schools we just built. I know because I've had the pleasure of being a landlord for many, many properties. And one thing I know for sure, that the minute you pay something off, it's gonna break. We have maintenance. We have all sorts of issues that are gonna come with all those brand new schools we just finished paying off. And if we plan properly, people like Ms. McLean here, who heads up a fantastic program in the Academic Challenge team, wouldn't have to beg, borrow, and steal to make sure the brightest children of Key West High School can attend the state championship. That is shameful to me. Why? Bad planning. We spent money on headhunters, although we have a perfectly competent HR department. We entertain guests without any kind of benefit from the entertainment. But yet we can't find money to take care of our schools, and we can't find money to take these young children, the brightest and the best, to the state competition, which they brought back the gold medal, I might add. What a shame if those children had missed that opportunity. And shame on us putting her in that position, to have to put it in the newspaper, to have some very gracious community person come forward and make sure those kids got there. Poor planning. Or no planning, however you want to look at it. I think you need a woman to help these gentlemen see the light. I don't know what else I can say on that subject that hasn't already been said here. Sorry, guys.
I'm gonna get my moment in a minute.
Oh, I'm slow.
I get the next question?